pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 2 is approval of the minutes from the January 16th meeting.
I'll motion. Oh, go ahead, Rick.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Rick,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes. Up next is hearing public concerns. Please state your name.
Good evening, my name is Bill Metz, Council Administration, guests, employees. I'm here tonight on a couple issues. One is, I keep hearing the council say you want people to reach out and talk to you and everything else, but when you print a minute that says you limit your people with public concerns to 5 minutes, that sends a mixed message. I'll do my best tonight to do it in 5 minutes or less, but I can assure you that it might run over slate. I've also observed over the last couple of months, Bryan City Council has made a lot of emergency motions on multiple issues so that you basically put it forward, vote on it, and it's done with no public input. Recently, I've observed a change that happened with the City of Bryan BMU services in which the item was not even on the council agenda, did not provide the citizens with any opportunity for public concerns to be voiced, yet was brought forth, voted, and passed. Specifically, I'm talking about the October 16th meeting where the council acted on a memo from BMU concerning the continued publication of audio-video recordings of the BMU public affairs meetings and the Bryan City Council meetings. The recommendation from the city administration meeting was that the need for the audio-video equipment needed to be upgraded, and it was cost prohibitive. Came as a memo out to the council. Council read it. They did absolutely no discussions, no questions, and basically voted and says, we're done. We're not going to put out an audio anymore. I don't know if you've actually sat down and tried to listen to these meetings without video, but it's grueling. Obviously, people are coughing, sneezing, etc., and that overwrites anybody that's talking in most cases. The council keeps talking about transparency. You want to make sure you're transparent. In today's society, audio equipment, video equipment is cheap. I'm not sure if whatever the cost prohibitives were, what they are, because at that meeting, there was no cost available. Does anybody on council even know how many people are viewing these? Anybody have a guess? Well, I can tell you right now, for 2023, 75% of the meetings, the ones that I could track, had 100 to 188 viewers. That's 100 to 188 people that could not be here at 5:30 or 4:30 or whenever the meeting was held. You have to remember, we have people in our community of the 8,593 of the population and the 442 households that don't work 7 to 4. There's people tonight that are probably not even out of the office yet to come to this meeting. So they have that opportunity then to view that meeting. You say, well, they can read it in the Bryan Times. Well, only about 45% of the households in the city of Bryan actually subscribe to the Bryan Times. The mayor stated that on the 16th that the audio would be able to be continued because of a computer in the back room. Is it really the equipment issue, or is it an issue that BPA just no longer wants to pay an employee to handle the remote monitoring of the council meeting, the screen presentations, etc.? If it's a BMU cost, I think the city of Bryan needs to pony up. If they need to hire an outside service, I would suggest you consider that. It came as a memo. It wasn't even anything that was in the minutes, so it basically blindsided the public. I'm requesting council publicly provide details of what the makeup of the costs that are prohibitive of necessary items, not once, We all know that we all like to have the latest and greatest toys, but sometimes even on our own PCs and equipment at home, we might have software that's 2 or 3 years old. It's still functional, it's still supported, but it's not the latest and greatest, and it works. And once again, bring back the audio video for the recordings. I wanted to share with the mayor that you might want to look at your link to the YouTube page, because when you click on it, no matter what device I went to, it takes you to the December 4th meeting of 2022 and just a general YouTube page. There is actually a BMU video playlist that probably needs to be linked to, so that people that do want to try to find it, once they figure out where they're at, they can at least get to it. The second issue I want to bring before council this evening, I've been an internet and once a cable subscriber for BMU for 18 plus years. About the second week of January, my City of Bryan email account started becoming inundated with a sizable number of unsolicited emails. I went through Outlook and started blocking them, 16 to 20 a day, sometimes more, and it still continued. I contacted BMU Help Desk and says, what has changed in the system all of a sudden? I was advised by Help Desk that they would create a ticket and they get back to me. Over the next 6 days, while I was waiting for them to return, I started doing some analytics. And even blocking them through Outlook, messages with the same subjects kept coming through every day from multiple senders. After a week or so with no response from BMU, I sent the BMU Communications an email with the screenshots of the 100 plus emails that I had saved, sorted by date, sorted by senders, and sent them a text file of all the email addresses that I had blocked over those 6-day periods. A day or two later, BMU Communications made contact and advised they were aware of the issue. They advised that a certificate for the Barracuda filtering system for residential users had not been renewed. And I said, why? It was because of cost. It was going to be several $1,000s. Unbelievable. You're inundating your system with emails that people are accumulating. I know somebody that has 6,000 emails in their inbox right now. BMU is the ISP provider, and I think that's a service just like you do with water, sewage, electric. There's things that need to be maintained, and I'm requesting that somebody figure out how much this residential certificate is for Barracuda and get it reinstated. That's all I have unless you have questions.
Thank you. Anyone else have any public concerns? That's next, item number 2, a resolution. County, please number 3.
Resolution number 11, 2024, a resolution to authorize the mayor to accept a grant of $8,855 from the Ohio Criminal Justice System for body-worn cameras for the officers of the Bryan Police Department.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
As you can see, we got awarded once again for the body-worn camera grant, $8,855. That's going to help complete the body-worn camera package for the police department, so I'm just asking that you would accept it.
I'll move to suspend.
I'll second.
John,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and Mary.
Move to approve.
Second.
Rick,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 5 is liquor permit.
Council, you have been provided with 2, both you have heard before for the Trex. One was again from Dave Swanson and the other was from Riddy Stores. I am asking that you review both and make a motion to waive the hearing so that we do not have to go to Columbus on this liquor permit and let them handle administratively what they want to do down at the Department of Commerce. So the motion would be to waive the hearing.
Both.
Yes. Both are separate, your choice.
Both? Both. Well, I'll make the motion to accept both.
I'll second.
John,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Rick, Jim,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 6,
Good evening. I've got a request for permission to give a civil service test once again. I have an opening for a full-time position and need to start that process.
I'll move to approve.
Go ahead.
I'll second.
Jim?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Item number 7, the motion to approve and sign support letter.
Council, you have been presented with a letter addressed to Keegan Booth, Housing Development and Management Service Director for Frontier Community Service. If you recall, they were pursuing a 42-unit senior housing off Portland Street. They did not get the tax credit that they applied for through OFA. They are trying to do that again in meeting the criteria or to try to get enough points to meet the criteria. They are actually going to increase that unit to 50 residential units to meet the needs of seniors. And they are asking that we and Bryan Board of Public Affairs sign letters of support so that they can put that with their OFA packet that's due in a couple weeks. Do you have any questions? Do you recall, Mr. Oswald, you probably know the least amount it, but they were one-story duplexes for senior living that had attached garages as well. Really well done, managed. They would include a dog park, a community building for the seniors. And the hope is to relieve some of that, one, maintenance-free living that the seniors are looking for, and two, maybe they sell their residential homes that they raise their families in to create some housing availability for the community.
So the access point for this would be coming off of Fountain Grove Drive?
Yes.
And this would be the land that is south of the senior center,
Yes.
correct?
Mhm. Yes, owned by Isaacs. Now, Isaacs are not doing the development. They have a purchase agreement with Frontier,
Okay.
should they get the funding.
Do you know when a decision will be made on this?
Oh, I do not. I feel like if they get it, it will be completed in 2026, the construction.
Okay.
So I think usually it's in July, but OFA's dates have been delayed this year significantly, so I think it should be summer.
I know we were hoping it would go through the last time.
Yes, we were 1 point off,
Hopefully we can get through this time.
yeah.
If there's no further discussion, I'll move that we accept that you present this letter of support.
I'll second that.
Rick?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And Mary?
Thank you. And I would ask each of you to see Mr. Leonard so you can sign that letter. He'll have the original.
Next are the annual reports from the mayor and the fire department.
Chief wants to go first.
Look at the chief popping up.
I know.
Good evening. You've got copies of the report in front of you. They're a little more detailed than what we have in the slides, so I'll try to hit the highlights, and if you got any questions, please ask, and we'll discuss those. So our activity, as you can see, has spiked tremendously this year. Part of that is because in June, we began making all first responder calls with EMS. We changed some of the system, the way we were paged. We saw a huge increase. We were going to a lot of these calls, but we were getting called late. Again, to provide a better service for the community, we've done this, and as you can see, it added somewhere around about 700 calls just in the last half of the year. So we anticipate this year will probably be close to 2,000 calls for 2024. Again, the majority of our calls, 71%, are that emergency and medical rescue, but that's not all EMS calls. That also includes car crashes, cars in the water. Those all fall under that rescue and emergency. And we still have a few fires. Our fires are pretty consistent at about 55 for the year. We had one out in the parks this year. I put the picture there, so I can support Ben's new purchase of a mower this year. But again, the numbers are pretty consistent. We've seen a little increase in the emergency and medical, again, with the rest of the numbers, but we were running upwards of high 50s to 60% prior to. Our emergency activity, most of what we do is in Bryan. And even with the increase in medical calls, as you can see, 945 in Bryan alone. Pulaski Township is our next big pull, and then Center Township. And then it rounds out the rest in the other districts that we provide contract service for. Our average response time, I'm really happy with our response times. This is from the time of call till we're on scene, or actually from the time we leave the station till we get on scene. Obviously, Bryan's going to be shorter because of the distance, but we're putting a truck on scene. With the total response, we've been running just under 4 minutes, and that's from the time of dispatch to the time of arrival. Obviously, the farther out we go, Hillside, we end up almost 10 minutes. But if you tried to drive right now to Hillside, you're going to spend the better part of 10 minutes just getting there. Mutual aid calls, those will vary. One of our calls last year was in Cooney, so we made a little drive on that one. That really skews the numbers with those. But the others, anything under 8 minutes is a good response, and that's what we're shooting for 90% of the time. Again, Hillside, just sheer distance, we know that that's going to be out there a little farther. So I'm really happy with where the numbers are. That has to do with our staffing on station. We're getting out the door quicker, at least with our first response. Again, calls by month, you can see in June when we changed to the first responder calls, we saw a pretty big spike. We tripled the number of calls per month. And the question we always get asked is, when do the calls come in? This has been consistent for years. Around 6 o'clock, the calls start picking up, and about 7, 8 o'clock, they start dropping off in the evening. So again, our daytime staffing, we've tried to ramp that up to hit the majority of the calls. Our call-in people are a little more available overnights, so that's worked out for us. We've been able to put enough people on scene to handle the emergencies we have. Day of the week, we've looked at that for a number of years. It may vary from one year to the next, but it's pretty consistent. Monday through Sunday, calls come in. There's really no spike for the week or the weekend. Fire cause, we always look at that to see if we had a spike. We had a number of intentional fires this year. There's different causes for that. Some of them are trash fires that people intentionally set, such as the dumpster fire. We have had some others that they meant to burn stuff and they cause further damage. They fall in that category. Most of the fires that we've had have been unintentional, cooking fires, things of that nature. We have a couple we're still looking at, but I don't anticipate that we're going to determine either an incendiary cause or failure of equipment. Just kind of a brief overview of our fire prevention. The inspections, we still haven't recovered from COVID, bringing those numbers up where we'd like to. We've got some that we have to do. Schools, daycares, group homes we're required to do. Any new buildings coming in, fire alarms, suppressions, things of that nature. Education, we really had a big pickup this year, and we've got some new programs going. We had a babysitter program that we put together in the spring. We've had a number of requests for it. Finding time in our schedule to do another one has been really difficult. Our training overall is up. We saw over 2,000 people this year. We did our programs at the school. We went to the career day at the high school this year. It was a first for us, and that was a well-received event. We had a number of students that were interested in fire career, and hopefully we'll attract them into the fire service in the future. And we continue our smoke detector program, and every second grader in Bryan schools and St. Patrick's gets a smoke detector from the fire department. That's a donation that's made by the volunteer company. Our training academy this year, again, we provide a lot of different certification training. Some of the things that are highlights out of our training this year, we got our live burn facility finally built. We were able to run our classes through here. It has been an excellent facility for us. The students and the instructors have really got a lot more out of that experience. It's a lot better controlled fire. This year we did have bus extrication training, and it was kind of on top of the bus accidents that happened at the beginning of the school year down in Columbus. We had already had that scheduled, and our folks went through that to look at safety features there. In the lower right-hand corner, we were training with our new JAWS equipment that we got through the grant from BWC last year. Again, we ran everybody through that to make sure they were comfortable with it. We had a lot of activities going on in the last year. We started out the year, we put a new storm siren in with the assistance of BMU. They came in and wrecked out the pole for us, and then we put a new one in at Roseland Park. The water emergency, obviously, we played a little role in that and opened the station up as a supply point to the public. Working with the street department, we had to replace a sump pump at the fire station. That happens about every 5 years, so they were there for that. The Girl Named Tom concert, we coordinated with a lot of different folks, a lot of different agencies, and that event turned out really well, and again, helped us with our incident command. Unfortunately, we did have a retired funeral this year, and Lieutenant Stow passed away, and we gave him his last ride. This is kind of a new thing that we've talked about. We've had our drone, or UAS, for a number of years. Kind of highlight some of the things we did with it this year. We used it at the Girl Named Tom event for an overview. We used it for Day in a Park to survey the area to determine we had our setbacks. In Career Day, we actually flew it inside the gym, again showing our capabilities. We've used it on a couple of field fires. We used it on a hazmat response, and we actually assisted the police in search of a building for an individual. Was not successful, but again, we cleared some areas for them. One of the other things I want to talk about is the apparatus, where we're at. And I listed them out by how new they are. Our grass truck is one of our newer purchases as far as fire apparatus. And it's got a few years on it, but it's going to last us a long time. Those smaller vehicles, we expect anywhere between 15 to 20 years out of those. Our engine, the suction pumper, is the newest one. The ambulance that we purchased during COVID, we've been getting some use out of that. We've been using that with the first responder calls, and we have assisted the county when they've been stretched really thin or during really bad weather to keep them from driving halfway across the county. We actually made 2 transports in the last 3 months, and that's an exception to the rule. But again, we're trying to provide safety, and that was the thing we needed to do. Our tanker is in good shape. The older suction pumper, again, we're getting out there. We're past 20 years, but again, good truck for us. Everything that's in red there, those are all 30 years old or older. The problem with 30 years old is not that we've got high mileage on them, that we've worn the engines out necessarily, but we have a hard time getting parts. Parts become the issue. Currently, the Sutphin Tower, we have not gotten the certification this year for the ladder. We have a communication cable to the bucket, and we're unable to fly it from the bucket. And because we don't have that, we cannot get our certification. So currently, our tower is a elevated stream. That's what we can use it for. We can't put people up in it. Hasn't been certified for climbing. And that's a real concern. That vehicle to repair, if we can get the parts, which have been on order for 6 months since they reordered, when they sent the wrong part from June. That's about a $7,000 fix to repair. Again, parts becoming the issue. That truck to replace today, they're telling me is somewhere around $2 million. So it's something that we have to consider. Our hazmat truck was an '88. We got that in '96. We did refurbish that. We had it refurbished, and then we finished out the build here in Bryan. For the purpose, as long as we can continue to keep it moving, that truck's going to do fine. The rescue, '86, that has had an engine replacement in it. I believe the last engine we put in it, we actually took out of a salt truck because you cannot find one anywhere. Generator on that truck is currently out of service. The last repair on that was a $6,000 fix. That truck is probably not worth much more than that, and putting money into it is getting kind of tough. So we need to make some determinations what we're doing there. The '83 Pierce is a reserve truck. It's got some issues, but it has passed its pump test, and if we had to put it in service, while it's limited in its space, it would suffice in the interim. '79 Mack, again, that was refurbed in '89. That was the truck they bought from New York and then had it rebuilt. Again, even '89, it's out there. And parts, last time we bought major parts, we had to go to a collector to buy those parts. So this truck is not really in a repairable shape. Fortunately, it's still running, still passing its pump test, but any kind of breakdowns, and we're going to be out. And then I listed our support vehicles down below. We're doing pretty good with those, no real problems. But we do need to look in the future of how we're going to either replace or do major modifications to trucks. An engine today is about $800,000. The tower, like I said, is about $2 million to replace. And in comparison, that truck, when it was purchased new, was just under $500,000. So it's seen a huge increase in cost. Our last engine was just over $400,000. And it's
The items
doubled.
in red obviously are not chronological. Are they priority?
Actually, they are chronological. The red ones?
Yes.
Those are 30 years old. And they start right on down the list, right?
I understand that. My question has to do with priority.
Priority, the
Yes.
tower is our number one priority right now.
Yeah. So would the second priority be the hazmat?
No, I would say it would either be the rescue or our third due pumper.
Second question, and I'm pretty well done, I think, is being on the budget committee, seems like forever. Is this something that you keep saying we need to look at? Is this something that you and the mayor and John are going to?
It's going to have to take priority. Last year, our priority was trying to put people on the trucks.
Right.
Without people, it doesn't matter how old
Sure,
the trucks are.
sure.
We've resolved a little bit of that. Again, as you can see, I'm hiring again. It's still an ongoing issue, but we're going to have to start focusing our funds into trying to build up our truck fund to be able to address this.
You answered both my
yeah.
questions there, which is basically the reasoning that it hasn't been prioritized the last couple of years, though it's been a need. The greater need was labor.
Yes.
Is that an accurate representation of what you said? Okay, that's, and this next year, we potentially should entertain, I don't want to put words in your mouth, some kind of a submission for a tower ladder?
Tower ladder, yeah. The other problem is, if we order today with the tower, we're probably 2 years out.
Right,
If we
well,
order an
that's my
engine
understanding.
today, we're probably 3 years out,
Yeah.
just because of the demand and the supply issues of just getting equipment.
That current tower ladder, you said, I got the impression couldn't pass muster at a certain level. Has it been able to, I misunderstood, go right ahead.
It's simply because we don't have the It's called a communications cable, but it actually allows the controls that are in the basket to be operated so we can move it from that position. That was the failure piece in this. It actually passed its weight test, so the stress test, it passed. But it just does not have all the components that are required to get recertified.
So it can hold the people, it just can't move them.
Yes, well, we actually have to move it from the ground, and because we're doing that, it doesn't
I
meet
see.
the requirements for a certification.
So if I understood you correctly, you were saying that you use it right now to simply get water from a
Yes, I
height
could-
onto a fire? That's your primary use of it?
That is what we could use it for. We have nozzles on it. It does have the water pipe in it. It would do that. It will hold up to it, but we can't climb it. We can't do rescues from it. We can't put people on that ladder up in the air. That's where that's at.
Two questions for you in regards to numbers. So prior to 2023, you were not dispatched at the exact same time as EMS or other agencies. But
That is-
now in 2023, you are being dispatched at the exact same time.
Yeah, let me explain kind of how that is going. That has a lot to do with the 911 system.
Okay.
Anything that comes in on a landline within the city goes direct to our dispatch. Anything's by cell phone will go through central dispatch right next door. If it is a fire call, they transfer that back to our 911 dispatch, they page us out. With EMS calls, they dispatch all of the EMS in the county. So when they take the originating EMS call, they would dispatch Williams County EMS, and then if needed, they would call our dispatch. So we had that delay up through June. We were getting called 5 or 10 minutes into an incident because they needed assistance with lifting. If they had a cardiac arrest, they need more hands. So it was delaying those calls. And even with some of the extrications from crashes, there was a little bit of a delay there. So what we have done is we've looked at our paging system and our protocols, and if we have those EMS, we've actually added the capability for them to direct page us for those EMS calls, and then they track them like they do every other first responder throughout the county. Fire calls still come back through our dispatch, and we operate normally. And there isn't a huge delay there, but there was a delay. We saw it quite often. It was several minutes that was occurring just because of delays and some of the protocols that were set in place. Because we were getting late, they didn't call us on every call. We've changed all that. We're providing a better service. And with our staffing, especially during the day, we're able to handle that. And what we found is we've been able to handle a second call within the city a lot of times during the day, and we've handled as many as 3 at the same time that they're responding to. 3 calls at once for the Williams County EMS is stretching them. They have enough to do that, but they're not coming from Bryan. We've got one from Montpelier. We've got either Eden or Stryker for the 3rd, and that means the rest of the county is completely uncovered at that point. So our response, by being able to get somebody close, local, put them on scene, we've interceded. We've been providing medical care when EMS arrives. And if it's a urgent thing that we need to get moving, it's pretty quick transfer. We can help them load. We don't have to wait on more people. Regardless of where they're at, if they're upstairs, anything else, we have personnel on scene. So it's been a real benefit to us, and we really haven't seen a big increase in our overtime due to it.
So what I was wondering then, my second question is, what looks like an almost 3-fold increase in calls, am I reading that correctly? Or is it just simply that the delay that was occurring because of 911 and the way they were routing things, realistically, it's not, is it really a 3-fold increase?
Yes,
or
it is.
Is it?
Yeah,
Wow.
well, before, 2/3 of those calls, we wouldn't even get called to. They would send the EMS there, and they were handling that shorthanded, or it was a long response for them, and we just didn't get those calls. So by the change of protocol, prior to that, if they had a second call, they would call the EMS unit, ask them if they wanted us to be called for it, since they were coming from Montpelier or some other area. So again, there was a delay in that, and if they were close, they'd say, no, we'll be there in a minute, don't worry about it, because they knew that transfer. So it really did delay the response to the public.
So with this type of an increase, what's the impact upon that list of equipment? Because that means you're going out.
It hits the ambulance that we use during the day as much as possible. And again, that truck isn't absolutely necessary. Most of them will go out on the older Tahoe, the 2008 Tahoe, and we run out that because we're not looking to transport people. We're simply looking to get medics there.
Okay.
If we happen to be out on another call, they may run the fire engine, but they're already out, they're in it, and we're not putting huge runs onto that. We're trying to get away from running that fire engine out and either take that ambulance that was bought specifically for that, or using one of the support vehicles to actually get to those scenes.
All right, thanks.
You think they're getting grant money for that truck or not?
Grants just, the FEMA grant just opened, and it opened last week, and I have not had a chance to open the grants, just really busy schedule. It is my intent to apply for truck grant through the FEMA grant. It's a pretty steep climb. The funds are limited. There's a lot of fire trucks out there that need replaced, but being 30 years old and having something that is not serviceable, it moves our priority up. But a $2 million ask out of about $400 million nationally becomes a tough sell.
Fingers crossed.
Makes sense.
Okay.
You have one more.
One more. Just a list as of the end of the year. This was a roster. As I said, we've done a little bit better with people. We have an academy class right now of 2. They are finishing up. Everyone has passed their academy test. They simply have to take their state test next week. And we'll add 2 more to our volunteer roster at that point. So that list got a little bit better from last year.
Good.
And that was important. Yes, yes. It's the part-time paid on call. Not all those folks live in Bryan, and that was what the asterisks are. The folks that have an asterisk, they're actually here local, and they will respond in on fire calls. The others that are not with an asterisk, they don't live within the city. We see them working part-time for us and filling those positions. But some
Or
of our
they're in the
call
city
people
and they're
do.
instructors for us.
And we have some instructors that are in there as well, but they will work for us, they will make calls, they do a little bit of everything. And I'm really happy with the folks that are there, and they're keeping us safe as best we can. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Up next is the mayor for her.
Almost ready, sorry, I had to switch that. Okay, so we will have the state of the city for 2024. Again, we go through the organizational chart. Obviously, there was a change this year with the city attorney prosecutor that is split into 2 firms. Also with that, they are paid by service and not with city benefits, so keep that in mind. We also this year added a human resource under the clerk treasurer's position, and those are the only 2 changes. Obviously, we still have the volunteer zoning administrator, but under that is the planning and zoning committee. And then for parks, we have the park board and tree commission. Those 3 groups are, again, volunteer members from our community, and we are greatly appreciative of them serving city administration in their required duties. For the employees, that just gives you a total list of the number of employees that we currently have within the city in BMU and municipal court, up to 133. For planning and comparison for budgets, total budget this year was close to 57 million. I do want to note last year for the council budget, it had increased a little over 2 million, and that was the Horton Heights grant money that we had fronted into the budget to increase our budget, and then were received back, I think, 1.8 million in the grants under the engineering department. So that's where the change was, and then BPA actually also reduced by $1 million this year. Would like to thank Mr. Kozenpleck and Mr. Betts for serving on that budget committee, and all the work that all the department heads did in presenting their budgets and requests, and the time that BMU took also to present that to you guys. Overall, carryover was $1.8 million, and we will be working towards 2025 with a new budget system that is a little bit easier to articulate to the public and add some more transparency. And Don Hunter will be leading the charge for those changes, and we will be working with the department heads in the coming months to get them accustomed to the new way of budgeting. General fund chart, again, our police department comes in at the most at 2.5, and mayor's office, I believe, is the smallest, which again, I have an employee that we share with the police department. Everybody is within their normal range of spending. Obviously, there have been some bigger projects in years past with engineering, so that one went down this year. Unanticipated is that $100,000, just in case there's an emergency that was expected for, you would obviously come to council for, that doesn't fit in anyone's line item. City portion of taxes, total income tax collected was almost $9.5 million, and the rest of the income in the city was not through city tax. Streets and sewers was 2.6, 1% collected 5, and the fire department was 1.5. I also want to note with the fire chiefs, getting personnel and focusing on that and making sure that the wage was there. The year before that, we had consolidated the police and fire loan, and remember, we cut some years off on that bond, so $500,000 went towards that, so that was another slowdown out of the vehicle fire fund. So there's the last 2.5 years of counting. Real estate taxes, we collected nearly $470,000. That's countywide. Again, we don't have a lot of millage here in the city, so the majority of real estate taxes that you're paying are going towards other things, levies, school, county, not so much the city. But we still have the Bryan Economic Growth Council. That executive committee I need to change that because we now have Derek Schultz as the Director of Utilities, but the rest serve on that in case there is reason for us to engage that economic growth, especially with the North Industrial Park. This is a new chart we added this year, and I want to make sure that you take a look at it. These were the grants that were received through department heads' hard work for 2023. We did also break down, obviously, we had, community grants in there. We did not put the donations that were given just as community members for amphitheater concerts, et cetera, so that goes outside of that. But I think that's something, almost $2.7 million brought back into the community because our department heads are being very proactive in competitive grant programs and writing really good applications, and something that they should really get some recognition for. So I want to make sure that that gets highlighted and not overlooked, because I know you guys pass the measures and you allow them to apply for that, so thank you. But I think that it says a lot to our city staff that they can create this kind of local dollar. Industrial Park, still the same, 5 lots that are available out in the South Industrial Park. Again, if you would like or know someone that would like to purchase that for building, they can contact our city engineer, Bryan Whelan, and the Industrial Park North. Still site certified, 78 plus acres. We have not, probably in the last 8 months, had any significant visits for that. and still looking to do that while also working on housing for within the community. It's a little bit of a chicken and the egg. Do you bring new employees or do you work towards housing and create kind of an environment where it's a little more competitive for the employers before you bring in a 200-plus job company? With that being said, we will always chase those leads and be competitive in that as they arise. Projects for 2024, at the end, or the very beginning of this year, we did the planning and zoning code updates. Would certainly like to thank Andy Waterston for all of the work he did. I'm going to continue to put Amtrak upgrades up there until we finally get our new station. There is a little bit of a federal back and forth with Amtrak and Norfolk Southern that we're working through right now. Paving program throughout the community, $600,000 was budgeted this year. The subdivisions impacted for that paving program are Autumn Chase, Union Place, portions of East Village, and Eastland Woods subdivision. We are working on the design and application for the second phase of Safe Routes to School. That will finish and complete that sidewalk project from South Street where Portland intersects to South Main. Lincoln Park Inclusive Playground, we are looking for a late spring completion date for that. We are very excited about that new addition into our community. That'll be a very fun day when we can bring kids from the community and West Ohio and have a big fun party and ribbon cutting for that. So when we have more information and details on that, again, we're thinking late May, we'll certainly let you know and hope that you can join us. But again, just a great piece for that portion of town, and it could not thank the school board enough for donating that property that was Lincoln Park in order for us to do that as a public use. And we are still working, Wes, very diligently on the dewatering improvement project at the wastewater treatment plant. And as that work continues, we will update you accordingly. Again, this is the picture of what the Amtrak station should look like. We are hopeful that will be groundbreaking in the near future. Just again, some pictures of the subdivisions that we're planning on repaving, and then also the sewer project on South Meyer Street. Another park picture for you of the zip line swings, merry-go-round, monkey bars, tower slide, ramp entry, port-in-place service that will be handicap accessible for all. And the second phase of Safe Routes to School does look where the yellow highlighted is where we're going to end up, hopefully when we're done, probably completion of 2026. Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay, well, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the management team for the city. We have a really professional bunch here that lead our departments, and all of our employees that have been dedicated to helping the community. Could not do my job every day without them. We lean on each other a lot, and everybody is collaborating with each department as well as organizations throughout the community, whether that be the Chamber, Bryan Area Foundation, Bryan Development. We're working really hard to make sure that the community is taken care of, and we are serving as we work on projects in the future of Bryan. I'd also like to recognize a few leadership folks here from Williams County Leadership. Hi, Hal. We have Hal Kennedy, Brian Rohrig, Christy Kimple, and Brenda Hausch. And then also our very own John Lenner, because he just gets points every time he attends. I'm sure there's bonus points for that, but John is in the Williams County Leadership class this year as well. So, Council, I thank you for your support. I thank you for being very diligent in reading the packets that we send to you, researching those things, asking questions of not just me, but the department heads, and being very engaged as we progress this community. So, looking forward to a good 2024.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we'll go around the room. Chief Roski?
Nothing at this time.
Nothing further.
Tyson?
No, ma'am.
Wes?
Nothing.
UTA?
No.
Newspapers?
Good.
John?
Nothing tonight.
John? Any other?
John 1 and John 2. No, just real quickly, I want to thank Chief Poole and the mayor, and actually for Ms. Russell for the Muni report. It's always very helpful to get that, to read it prior to coming and digest it. And I appreciate all the effort they put into it. And also the staff, we say it on a consistent basis, and it needs to be stated on a consistent basis, that they're bringing in grants helps this city immensely. And I'm sure we're all looking forward to at least a $2.5 million grant from Chief Poole.
No pressure.
And that's it.
Okay, Steve?
Just kudos to all the departments. $2.7 million in grants is an impressive number. As someone who helps write grants from time to time, to bring in that much is very impressive, and I just can't say enough about how much that works and how much that benefits the folks in Bryan. To Chief Poole and Mayor and the Municipal Court, thank you for those reports, appreciate them. Very, very, very detailed, very educational, and I wish the best to the housing development, and hopefully that can move forward and benefit the city of Bryan again in that way.
I'd like to thank Mr. Metz for bringing his concerns before council, and trust we will follow up on that. Congratulations to Chief Ruskey on getting your grant and getting the body cameras. Those are something that are a benefit to our police force. Good luck to Chief Poole on hiring some new firefighters. That's always a tough thing. As I talk to people around, not just Williams County, but the four-county area, it's a difficult thing everywhere to try to get people to be firefighters. So good luck on that. Good luck to Frontier Community Services on getting their financing and helping out the city of Bryan with the senior living. And finally, thank you to Chief Poole and Mayor for those informative reports, and we're looking forward to a great 2024.
I really have nothing else to add. Chief Poole, congratulations. We've talked about this for a long time. You building your police department up, you've done a great job. Mayor, great job. And that's it.
I would like to thank Mr. Metz for coming forward. I also would like to thank the department heads and the grant money you do bring into the city. That's wonderful that you were able to get that grant money. I also would like to thank Chief Poole and the mayor for your speeches. Thank you very much. It's good to know what's going on. And I also would like to thank Reddy and Dave Swanson for investing in our communities. The Bryan drive-through was missed, so it'd be nice to have a convenience store out that way. It's also very nice for what Dave Swanson's doing on the north side of the square. I cannot wait to see what this all ends up being. I know Gossippies and Defiance is a great restaurant, so I'm glad that they'll be coming to Bryan. Other than that, I don't have anything. I know that I need a motion to go in executive session to discuss imminent or pending litigation.
So moved.
I'll second.
Steve,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.